Seattle is changing and its trajectory uncertain.
Now, who guides the next steps is up to you.
Tonight, 2 candidates, 2 interviews, 1 chair.
Asking them the tough questions, from your safety
to your wallet,
to an opportunity to show off to the world.
As our city is growing and experiencing the pains that come with it,
we are helping you to decide who has earned the key to the city.
Good evening and welcome to Seattle, where the battle for control over the city is hitting a tipping point. Thanks for joining us. I'm Monique Ming.
And I'm Gary Horcher. Tonight we're putting the candidates for mayor in the hot seat. Sitting Mayor Bruce Harrell is hoping his experience and his dedication to public safety will help keep him in the office.
His challenger is Katie Wilson, and she is pushing a different perspective with a focus on affordability and change. But what you're watching is not a debate.
No, these are 2 separate, intimate conversations with each candidate, taking on 7 critical issues: budget priorities,
crime and safety,
homelessness,
affordability,
Seattle's status as a sanctuary city,
the World Cup spotlight on Seattle,
and how the candidates face criticism, especially from each other. So this isn't a free-for-all.
No, there are rules both candidates agreed upon. They both have 60 seconds to respond to our top question from each issue. Their answers are unedited and shown in their entirety.
But if we feel we need to press them on an answer, we will, and we'll show portions of that response right here.
And have the full, unedited discussion online. Just scan the QR code on your screen.
So the first issue we're asking both candidates about tonight is the city's budget. Right now, the city of Seattle faces a projected $250 million budget shortfall over the next 2 years.
The most likely fixes: big cuts, more taxes, or maybe both.
We asked our candidates, what are you taking aim at first?
What we're doing first, we always look at efficiencies first. So we look at where there's overlap in government, where we can drive efficiencies, where we could use technology to be better at what we do. And then we'll always look at revenues. I proposed this year a very progressive or a B&O tax, which allowed 90% of the business to actually have a tax break. And we announced many rollouts today for small businesses. So we'll use a combination of new revenues and efficiencies in government. And quite candidly, this is my 15th budget I've had to do, and you have to be pretty intense and deliberate, and you have to know what you're doing to manage a budget that exceeds $8 billion.
This is a great question, and budget and revenue, city revenue, is something that I've done a lot of work on over the years. So back in 2020, I led on designing and passing the Jumpstart Payroll Expense Tax, which is our city's landmark tax on wealthy corporations, and it's really how our current mayor has been able to balance the city budget for the last 4 years. But you're right, we still have a very large budget deficit. Seattle voters will have a couple of opportunities coming up this fall to help to close that deficit through passing a B&O tax restructure, which should raise another $80 million or so a year. But moving forward, we are going to need to make some tough decisions. And I really believe that the city needs to both spend the revenue that we have as effectively and efficiently as possible. So that is going to mean doing a full review of all the programs we're funding. Maybe there are things that were well-intentioned when they were first passed, but are not, fulfilling that purpose. So we need to make sure that we're spending our money well. And we also are going to need to look at new progressive revenue. We still have a very regressive tax system here in Washington state, where the lowest income households are spending the most of their money in state and local taxes. So we do need to call on the wealthiest households to pay their fair share.
Now, throughout his campaign, Bruce Harrell has consistently touted his experience at managing budgets.
And so we asked Katie Wilson if the city's budget is something she can manage.
I think that I've probably spent a lot more time combing through the details of the city budget than our current mayor has. I also think it's important not to exaggerate the kind of experience that Harrell came into office with, right? When he stepped into office, he had been a council member, right? Managing a few staff. So people come into the mayor's office with all kinds of different experience.
Harrell's proposed $8.9 billion budget does not include any new layoffs, but it calls for some new taxes.
The budget includes a restructured business and occupation tax that you will see on November ballots. It exempts 90% of businesses, leaving the bulk of the burden on the highest earning companies. But that doesn't come without concerns.
There are some concerns by business entities that B&O tax could contribute to larger companies looking outside of the city. How do you balance that?
We are a wealthy city. And so when I ask the wealthy corporations to pay their share of taxes, I think they understand that. My job are to make sure they have a business environment by which they can thrive in. Good tax policy, strong public safety, employees that are coming here. So our tax policy reflects our approach on how we build a great city. We're looking at exempting businesses that we only had businesses that paid $100,000 were exempt. Now we took that up to $2 million.
And moving on to yet another top voter issue, crime and safety.
Yeah, a recent FBI report says Seattle's violent crime rate has dropped, but it is still double the national average.
Turns out Seattle is also the third worst in the nation for property crimes. It's a whopping 185% above the national average. So we asked our candidates, how are you making Seattle safer?
This is very important, and it's something that as I've been campaigning around the city for the last 7 months, it is clear in so many neighborhoods people do not feel safe, right? There are a few things that I'm looking at doing better. So there was an audit last year about the city's kind of approach to gun violence and gun violence prevention. And what it found is that we are not following best practices. We do not have a coherent, strategic, evidence-based framework for addressing gun violence. So that's something we need to do better at. And there are really good models out there. So Baltimore and Boston recently have had dramatic drops in gun violence, and especially in youth gun violence. So we need to look at what they're doing. We need to work with all of the community organizations that are doing gun violence prevention work, because those are the right players to have at the table. They're doing great work, but we need that city leadership to make sure that we're getting the results that we want to see. We also need to meaningfully address the homelessness crisis and the parts of the public safety crisis that are related to homelessness, related to unsheltered homelessness and drug use, and that we can do much better on as well.
Well, first let me level set on some of the statistics which we've always validated. Homicides are down 41%. Serious crime, property crimes, shot fires are trending downwards. Let's just level set that. Number one. Number two is when I became mayor, I had lost over 300 officers. And again, my opponent was the architect of the defund movement. And there was all of this talk about defunding the police department. She said, quote, imagine a Seattle without a police department, right? So I inherited a very tough hand. So how we fixed the problem, number one, is we're getting 10 applications a day. We're getting over 4,000 people applying to be police officers. This year alone, we're projected to have between 125 to 150 officers. These are unprecedented numbers. We've changed the recruiting system. We're recruiting from communities that we want to protect. I have a new chief of police that holds a PhD. He's a Marine, he's a criminologist type. We have PhDs in the police department. So we're doing everything right, number one. And we created the care department from scratch.
Now, when it comes to crime and safety, both candidates agreed on two things.
Yeah, hiring more officers and getting more cops out of their cars and walking the streets.
But when it came to the numbers, we needed to ask for more clarity. When you look at adequate staffing, what's the number?
I've said 1,500. If you look at best practices, it should be about 1.9 for every 1,000 residents. It should be around 1,500, and I need 7-minute response time.
And I think that we need to figure that out as we get there, right? We do need to keep hiring more officers because we're not getting those results that we need. We're hiring more people, we're training more people, and at the same time, we're working on civilianizing those roles that police don't need to be doing so that the police we have can focus on policing. And we are working on using our officers as effectively as possible.
We have only just scratched the surface of issues facing Seattle voters.
Yeah, coming up after the break, how the candidates plan to tackle the ongoing homelessness crisis.
This is what an executive has to do. An executive has to make tough decisions.
And the rate at which Seattle is pricing out its own people.
What we have right now is a system of dead ends.
And don't forget, we have bonus coverage for you right now on KIRO7.com, like when we asked each candidate to react to this.
Maybe we should roll out the tour to Portland, Seattle, the other, what we'd call, crap hole cities.
Scan the QR code on your screen to hear their approach to working with the federal government, balancing sanctuary city protections and critical federal funds.
We'll be right back.